Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's on DisneyPlus.com. A quick news update for you guys on Disney potentially reducing the amount of time it takes from a movie to hit Disney Plus. But before we get into any of that, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. If we think back to when everything was kind of normal pre-March 2020, generally movies would take about 6 to 9 months to arrive on Disney Plus after they were released in cinemas. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, everything kind of got moved around. Things started arriving on Disney Plus much earlier. If you think back to things like Onward and Frozen 2, they arrived months earlier than they were originally expected to. And then we started having movies dropping over to Disney Plus early, things like Soul. And then we had Disney Plus Premier Access born with Mulan, and then we're going to be seeing it again this week with Raya and the Last Dragon. Now, with everything that's been going on, it's not just been happening in Disney, it's also been happening in other studios. They've been playing around with some different release schedule systems, including Universal releasing movies on digital platforms 17 days after they've been released at cinemas. HBO Max did something completely revolutionary. They released everything on HBO Max and at cinemas at the same time. Now they do take them off of HBO Max after 30 days and sort of then distribute them on the usual systems, which are like digital rentals, and then they go out to be sold on DVD, Blu-ray, etc. Now Disney have been talking about reducing the amount of time it takes from movies being released to when they're available on digital platforms. They've been talking about this for a number of years, but COVID has kind of generally just speeded everything up. During a recent interview and Q&A with CEO Bob Chapek, he said,
"Well, I think with our three options for commercializing content, one is being you go straight to theatrical and then windowed, as you suggest, to the service. Option two is obviously doing a Premier Access, which is a day and date with theatrical, and option three is going direct to the service. I think within that conceit, we're going to continue to evaluate given the recovery that's at hand. But I think the consumer is probably more impatient than they've ever been before, particularly since now they've had the luxury of an entire year of getting titles at home, pretty much when they want them. And so I'm not sure there's going back, but we certainly don't want to do anything like cut the legs off a theatrical exhibition run. But I don't think the consumer, again, we like to let the consumer be our guide in almost all situations. And I don't think they'll have much of a tolerance for, a title, say, being out of theatrical for months, yet it hasn't had its chance to actually be, thrown into the marketplace in another distribution channel, just sort of sitting there getting dust. So,
yeah. You've got your second Premier Access title coming up here very shortly with Raya. Does this play a big role, Premier Access, in your go-to-market over the long term, based on what you know so far?
It's going to be one of our strategies. It certainly makes a lot of sense right now in a COVID world to have an option. Raya, obviously, theaters aren't going to be 100% back, but it's nice to know that we've got the ability, if people do want to enjoy it in their homes because they don't quite feel confident in going to a movie theater, that they've got that choice. What this looks like in the future, well, we're going to gain a lot of experience and a lot of data points.
There are a few key things that Bob Chapek said that are very interesting. First off, he feels that customers are now going to be much more impatient and unwilling to wait the amount of time it used to take. They've been used to getting things faster. I mean, that was happening even before COVID. But I generally think that is true. People don't want to wait 6 to 9 months for a movie to become available on Disney Plus. They're paying for it, and therefore they want access to it a little bit earlier. And also, the old system of releasing it sort of the 90-day window that cinemas used to have, and then it used to go to home video, and then it would come onto Disney Plus. That was very much in the old ways when Disney Plus was still in its infancy. Now it's this mega juggernaut, and also with the other companies doing things much faster and much quicker, kind of putting the pressure on for Disney. Now, Disney do not want to get rid of big cinema releases. They've made a lot of money at the box office of having these big event weekends, but generally they make a lot of money at the beginning and then just slowly drop off. So they're going to kind of want to continue to do that, and Disney want to get back to that model. That's why they are continuing on with supporting cinemas. But at the same time, things have moved on, things have changed, how people are watching content is shifting, and I think we are going to see an expansion of the Disney Plus Premier Access. I think that's going to be something they'll continue to do for a lot of movies. because ultimately this bigger price means they can kind of pull a lot of money back. I think a lot of families prefer it, and generally if you don't like the price and you can go to the cinema, you've kind of got the options there. And I think especially this year with the whole COVID situation, it allows you a lot more freedom depending on what you want. I think this weekend's going to be a big important thing to see how Raya and the Last Dragon does. They'll be comparing how well it does at the cinema versus Premier Access and what they think it would have done. You know, they've only really got a little bit of data for Mulan, and that was kind of very tricky for them to work because it was the first one. It also had lots of other issues. Now, Raya and the Last Dragon is a fantastic movie. I did do a review yesterday. You can check that one out. But things are going to take a little bit while, and I think that's what they're waiting for movies like Black Widow and Cruella and also Luca. Now, it's important to note that when they recently released trailers for them, they didn't just say they were going to theatres only. They didn't even mention theatres. They didn't mention Premier Plus access, and I think that's something that they're going to continue to play with, especially for the rest of the year. And if they continue to do well, that'll continue as well. But the thing is, you've got to think of with cinemas, even before all of this hit, cinema numbers were going down. Other than Disney, everybody else's numbers were generally going down. Disney had some big ones, but also people weren't going to see their non-movies as much. You know, we were seeing a lot less interest in some of the non-franchise movies, and that was just something that's going to continue to go on. Now, obviously, for cinemas, it's not too good news, and they're not going to be happy with this. But ultimately, right now, they haven't really got a lot of control over that. They are going to have to accept these new terms. It's going to have to go both ways. But Disney are going to be turning around going, well, it's there, it's a premium product. You know, they might end up giving a little bit more of the ticket price to kind of cover that off. But if Disney don't do it, they're going to be left on the side where the other companies are doing it, and people are starting to expect it. You know, the idea of sitting at home watching a brand new movie, you're paying a premium for it. I think in regards to putting everything onto Disney Plus at the price that we're currently paying for Disney Plus, I can't see that happening. It's just too cheap. You know, with HBO Max, it's twice the price of Disney Plus, so that's one key aspect of that we've got to think about. But generally, things are going to be arriving on Disney Plus much quicker than we would normally see it. And I only think that's a good thing, because I think also the thing with like DVD sales and all that, that is something that's continuing to drop. But that's also something that might not necessarily be affected, because those kind of customers will still be buying them anyway. But in general, people just aren't buying discs. You can just see the numbers dropping on them. Digital purchases as well. People are just not doing that with the amount of streaming services that they're paid for. But let me know in the comments below, do you want to see movies arrive on Disney Plus much quicker? Are you happy with Premier Access? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.